is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm GIF.
And GIF is the heart of this podcast tonight.
You know, he did a good lub dub there to kick it off. But you know, if you would have done lub dush, that means we've got a heart murmur, right?
Oh,
that's
don't
the sound
do that.
for lub dush.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad
just
that we
saying
don't
that's
have
how it.
maybe next week. Maybe next week when we do REM, we should have a heart murmur.
Oh, murmur! I get it. I get it.
A little preview.
Well done.
Well, I mean, the old man is barely breathing, so I mean, it could be a murmur in there somewhere.
Bemidji.
Right? Where was that in the song?
All right, here we go. We're talking Huey Lewis and the News sports. Ooh. And when 1983 came around, I mean, there's so many. We had such a great time doing our drafts. And one of my all-time favorite movies, Vacation, came out this year. But we had done that already for a different reason. And Trading Places is a great one. And there are so many songs and albums that we brought up in our draft. But there was one that stood out to me as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid that I knew all along we were going to do this album during this year. So we are going to talk about Huey Lewis and the News sports. And I will tell you why I picked it in a minute. But why don't I ask Pete first? What do you remember about this album?
I think I definitely remember like the album cover and some of the songs and everything. I think it probably came from my brother. It seems to me like he might have had the cassette tape or something, and he played it once in a while. This might have been the first time I've ever actually sat down and listened to the album all the way through. However, and my
Shocking.
so I didn't really own the album or anything like that, but certainly knew all the big songs and stuff like that and some of the other ones. But do we want to talk about like what I thought about the album too and high level thoughts?
Especially if you can that's up to you, Pete. Whatever you want to say now.
Overall, this album, it's like, what's your genre? There's a little bit of it in here for you. It mixes, of course, it has rock, it has some country, especially with the last song. It has some blues, it has some 50s kind of doo-wop kind of music, and there's a bunch more that I'm probably not even thinking of. So that's what stood out to me as I listened to it. Some definitely good songs. I enjoyed listening to it. Overall, however, I would rate it a little bit lower than some of the other albums that we've done. I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Not that it was terrible, but it's just it didn't stand out to me as much as some of the other ones. Maybe I do have to listen to it a few more times, but still fun. Not that I hated it, but you know, it just didn't grab me like I was hoping that it might. So
that is not what I expected to hear. Interesting. Gifford?
Right.
Well, I'm with Pete on the fact that I didn't own this album. Like, it wasn't in the house growing up. But I was talking, we didn't own a whole lot of,
I know.
music albums, I guess. But, I was talking to Brad before we got on here, and, listening to this album, the songs are so ingrained. And I just thought, like, well, these songs have to be in movies and shows. And, I through research, I wasn't really finding, like, what movie a particular song was in. But it just, these songs, it's 9 songs on a 37-minute album, and 5 of them were singles. And they all reached top 20. Big single. I mean, these songs are huge, and you just love listening to them, and it takes you back to that 80s. And, I loved watching the videos. And Huey Lewis just looks like that cool uncle you want to hang out with. And so, going into his songs, you want to give him a chance, and you want to love him just because he seems like such a cool dude, and that doesn't take himself too seriously, which again, the music and the videos, lend itself to as well. So I loved listening to it. Pete, this was the first time I listened to the album front to back. But yeah, it was great. And they're just comfort food, I guess, kind of songs for me. So
yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's interesting that neither one of you have ever. I mean, because I consider, it's like 1984. There were like 5 albums that were number one, and that's it for the entire year. And this is that album in the 80s. This, Born in the USA, Purple Rain,
Thriller.
I think Wham was in there. But like we talked about Hysteria, there's this set of albums that were just giant albums and had tons of huge hit singles. And most of those we've all listened to many times, and this would seem to be one that I thought would have been, one you guys had that same access to, but I guess not. So that's interesting.
You sound
So this was
disappointed
the
in us.
first. No, it's fine. This was probably, I think, the first cassette that I ever owned myself. So like a lot of the like Pyromania we had in the house. It was my brother's. I brought a Duran Duran 7 and the Ragged Tiger last or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. My sister had that one. I had access to tons of great albums at this time, but most of them I had older brother and sister. But this one I had, and Huey Lewis was just they were just huge throughout the 80s. I mean, they had some hits before this. I mean, Do You Believe in Love is maybe one of my favorite songs of theirs. And then they went on and they did Power of Love, and they did soundtracks, and then they did, we had Hip to Be Square and all these other great things that came in the 80s. And it was like they are just one of the bands of the 80s. And to me, it felt like, if I had really looked back, I'm guessing this was probably like the first band that I really loved, like on my own, like at that age where I like picked this band, and it wasn't something that just I overheard, or that like my brother was listening to or whatever. And so they're really important to me for that reason. And I remember my little boombox I had in my little old bedroom that I had, and I would just put this thing in there, and the fact that it was named Sports, that did not appeal to me.
Kind of a turn on.
I mean,
Yeah.
as a giant sports guy, just the name Sports is like, oh man, this is great. I love that album cover in the pool.
Yeah.
hall.
The album cover is what I was going to mention, with the pool table,
iconic.
and it's kind of like Cheers. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah,
the bar.
but maybe one of the other
scene.
reasons that I loved this so much, or had maybe a little more of a relationship with it than you guys did, is because I had MTV, and these videos were giant. I mean, they were huge, with all these like ZZ Top and Prince and all these bands that had these just great videos in the 80s. This was another band that did that, and I thought some of their videos were funny, and like as a kid, like they appealed to me a ton. So I that might be a big reason why I might have been a little bit more involved than you were,
Sure.
even though you obviously know all the big singles.
Right.
Recently, we were in a record store, and I bought a record player a few years ago, and I bought it on vinyl because it was like, a lot of records, even the older ones, they're like really expensive to buy, and it's like, well, I hardly ever listen to it, so why do I want to spend my money on it? But this was like $8, and so I'm like, well, I got to buy that, and so I bought an $8 vinyl copy, and now I have it on there as well. A couple things I have here about the album. It is the third album by Huey Lewis and the News. It was released on September 15th of 1983. So this did reach number one on June 30th, 1984, and it was in the charts for 160 weeks. It was ranked number 2 on the Billboard year-end album chart for 1984. So,
do you remember the little album that beat it out for number one?
Was it Prince? Or
it was Thriller, the greatest
Thriller, of course, right.
biggest selling album of all time. Right. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, it was second to Thriller. Right. It had 4 top 10 hits, and as you mentioned, 5. One was a top 20 hit.
Yep.
And it is 7 times platinum. It is one of the iconic, amazing, great albums of the 80s, and we are here to break it down tonight.
Can I add a couple things to that?
Sure, go ahead.
So 2 songs, Heart and Soul and Heart of Rock and Roll, were nominated for Grammys. Heart and Soul for Best Rock Vocal Group, and Heart of Rock and Roll for Record of the Year. Didn't win the Grammys, but were nominated. So,
and I will say that we've done a lot of albums on this show, and I think often those are our best episodes. Maybe because there's just a clearer format to follow.
Sure.
But I think personally, we do a really good job of breaking down the songs and getting into the, what's going on there. And when Pete says it didn't grab him, I mean, I think this is a great album. It's fun to listen to, but I don't know that it ages as like, oh my God, it's a classic. I have fewer notes. I think the lyrics are definitely much more thin, uh, no pun intended, to this album than a lot of the ones that we have talked about. But that's not really the point of this album. It's just fun. That's what it is. That's Huey Lewis is. It's a party album. It's great. So we may not get quite as deep tonight as we have in some others, but we'll do our best.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go deep.
Do you have anything else to add, or should we just get into the songs here?
I think we kick
say-
it off.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it starts with the heartbeat, and you've got the heart of rock and roll beating. I mean, I love that the heartbeats kicking off the album. It's just a cool way to kick it off. I love how it pulses throughout most of the song, and it ends with it too again. It's got a great 80s sax solo. You can't have a great hit in the 80s without a saxophone. I do think you asked about Bemidji. They named so many great cities in this song. Where's Minneapolis? I mean,
Minneapolis.
Janet Jackson did it. We are a fantastic rock city here, and they should have been mentioned. And it's got one of those good video. It has a contrast from modern looks in it to them also playing in black and white, which kind of fits they have that kind of, like Pete said, doo-wop, that old-timey style to them too. And the video really kind of shows those two sides. So, I mean, it's a great song. It's the heart of rock and roll. What are you going to say about it? It's awesome. So what'd you guys say?
Well,
One thing that I had written down is that it's a little bit ironic to me that Huey Lewis is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I heard this debate just a couple of weeks ago. I came across it on. They're not. Even though when I think of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I actually think of this song because the first city he actually mentions near the end of the song is in Cleveland, and I always used to think that part of the lyrics were the heart of it's all still beating, right? But I thought it was the heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland.
Fun fact about that, Pete.
He
wrote this song while in Cleveland, and he wanted to have that as the lyric, but they had him change it to make it more like, because this is kind of a tour of America he's doing here, so kind of bring more people in. So yeah, at the end he throws in Cleveland and Detroit, but that was what he wanted to write it as, the heart of rock and roll.
Okay, maybe I heard that somewhere, and that's what I thought. Because it makes sense. I mean, when you think about that is or near the birthplace of rock and roll, that's why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there. And so it makes sense to write a song about it. And so I associated Cleveland with this song, and that's where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. He should be in it.
But still beating fits really well too, because I mean it's
still
like
beating.
Rock's been around for a long time, and it's not going to go away. And I never really thought about it, but yeah, they both could work for different reasons.
But God damn it, why not just write a song about Cleveland? There's not that many rock. It's like Minneapolis. There's not a lot of songs written about it.
Well, wasn't there a song about Cleveland in the beginning of the Drew Carey show, the Cleveland Rocks?
Cleveland Rocks. That's another one.
Of course, there is the Major League song too.
Oh yeah,
how's that go?
Cleveland, city of magic.
The Cuyahoga River.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this was the third single off the album, first song on the album. This one reached number 6. We'll find out here that this album spawned 3 number 6 hits all in a row as the singles came out, but this was the third one. And yeah, you've got, again, it's about not only a little tour of America with all the cities being mentioned with DC, San Antonio, Baton Rouge, and LA and New York. But, it's kind of, alludes to the history. And that's why the video is fun because, they're talking about the new rock that's in LA and in DC, but really it's, that backbeat rhythm that's always in rock. And so they have the stuff that's new in LA and around the Americas in color, but then they come back and they play in black and white and they show scenes, of like Elvis and other great artists throughout history in black and white. So it's a fun little history. And I love songs that have, all these different cities, and it's just trying to bring everybody in.
He's
it
a
may
sucker
be
for it.
corny. I'm a sucker for it. It may be corny. You may be pandering to all these fan bases, in these different cities, but I love it. I think it's great.
That's what musicians
Most of the way that
do.
you described it is all the more reason to have it say Cleveland, because it should all tie back to the roots.
He doesn't.
So I don't know. I'm not gonna let that go. You're right.
And then
go,
like
Brad.
like Brad said, the great sax in it as well, and then he finishes up with his harmonica solo at the end too. So just a fun song. I love, like Brad said, the heartbeat in it, and then you just got that real low guitar crescendo right as it kicks in. So that was a fun way to start the album.
It sure is. And then that leads to number 2, which is my favorite song on the album. So Heart and Soul is next, which is actually a cover, which, I never knew that for a long time. I did listen to the original, and it doesn't sound a whole lot different. I mean, it's not as produced. It sounds more almost like a demo or something, but it's by, I forgot who it was.
Exile.
There you go. Yeah. Cause they had, I know that band. They actually had some hits. So it's kind of surprising that, or it's only like 3 years before this. It definitely sounds better too. And and this is actually the third version. There was another band in between also.
Bus Boys in 82. So it was released in 81, 82, and 83.
So it's my favorite song on the album, even if it's a cover. The videos, I said, these are really dated. I mean, the fashions in this video and the girlies, it just looks so old.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Compared to some other ones. But I'm watching this one, and you brought up Huey Lewis. Do you mean like the fun uncle, or he's the cool guy? In this video, I'm looking like, we've talked about Chris Isaak. He seems like a brother to Chris Isaak to me. He has a similar,
I was going to say the similar
style.
Yep.
Their music isn't that far apart. And that's maybe, I love Chris Isaak. And Huey Lewis definitely makes me think of him too. I love this song, everything about it. But the middle breakdown part with the clapping, I'm a sucker for clapping.
Yep.
And that's my favorite part, and I love this song a ton.
Hey Brad.
I'm glad that they, even though it had already had 2 versions, that they brought it back because they're the ones that nailed it.
Mm-hmm. And this was the first single released from the album. So I love the keyboard intro. It's just fun little intro there. But then I like how the guitar gets a little harder in the chorus, so you got a little bit of something for everybody. And like Brad said in the video, he's cruising, trying to find this woman in the club, and eyes her, finally gets a hold of her, and they take off. But the lyric that I love in this is, I let her take advantage of me. You see, she got what she wanted. I just think that's such a baller line. Like, you let her take advantage of you, really? Yeah, you got nothing out of it at all. There. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have any fun with that situation.
This song for me, it wasn't quite. It sounds like, Brad, this might be your sneaky favorite on the album, the way that you described it.
Favorite. Said it twice.
It is his favorite. Yeah.
I know, but you didn't say sneaky favorite.
It would be sneaky because it's a single, and the first single, and it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, there you go. Not quite my sneaky favorite, but I thought this is where you start to think of, as I'm listening to it, this is where you start hearing the different mixture of kind of different other genres. It's a little bit of pop and included, kind of blended in. I guess the other note that I had, we already covered with, it was actually originally written, the names of the writers were Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin. Now, I don't know if they were actually from the band Exile or if they just wrote it and for Exile, but they were in the band. You're saying, Gifford?
I believe that's what I read, as they were part of Exile.
All right.
Cool. The only other note I had on this one was this song reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100.
The number 6, huh?
Nope, this wasn't number 6.
So this was the first single, so that means 2, 3, and 4 were all 6.
That's correct.
Deduction.
Yes, because the last one was the number 18 of the singles. Yep.
The next song is not a single.
Ooh.
Do up. This is Bad is Bad, and it starts with that little ditty there to kick it off a few times.
It's a 50s doo-wop. That's what I was describing.
And it ends with doo-wop, and it's very bluesy. I like bluesy, I like the lyric "Pool is a rule." It's got another great harmonica solo. I didn't write a lot about lyrics on here, but I like this song a lot. It sounds like Huey Lewis. It fits in this spot on the album. Um, and my memory of this song was that maybe I thought it was kind of lame or didn't like it because I hadn't listened. I have listened to it recently, but I hadn't listened to it for a long time in between. But listening to it again now, like I know this is a really cool song, and I like it.
This is it, Brad. We've gotten to my sneaky favorite.
We
This is
did.
it.
Nice. I can see that.
This is probably the most memorable one outside of their big hits. This is the one that stood out to me, and the one I had in mind at the beginning when I talked about. It's got a whole bunch of different genres in here. This does have bluesy, is what I had written as well. That big harmonica, which is played by Huey Lewis himself, and what I read was that he actually had an extended version, a lengthy harmonica solo that he would play live. So that would be cool to hear, but just kind of a fun fact about it. Yeah, that's all I had in my notes.
You steal all your notes, Gifford, it looks like.
You guys stole everything that I was going to say. Yes, sneaky favorite here. This is an awesome song. I wrote down literally a doo-wop song, as they do say doo-wop a couple times in it. I got the has a blues feeling, complete with harmonica. So yeah, I also wrote down a bit of a toe tapper. So this was a great song. I think I listened to it, 3 or 4 times. It's just a great tune.
Toe tapper. That sounds like a good description from you. All right, we come up to the 4th song, which is probably I think all the singles are pretty big, but this is probably the most memorable one. I Want a New Drug is next. And this has an awesome opening, this great slide guitar sound to it. And it's interesting because, it's almost like this song was the word drug, it's controversial, especially in the 80s, just say no and we got to make sure everything's clean. But it's really a love song, according to Huey. And it's talking, not really, not that it ever sounded like they were truly talking about drugs, but it's actually referring more as a metaphor to love. The big thing about this song, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners will know but if not, it's very interesting, is that this is the song so Ghostbusters wanted Huey Lewis to make a song for the movie, and he ended up declining. And then Ray Parker came along and basically stole this song for Ghostbusters. And it was in litigation forever and ever. And there was eventually some sort of a non-disclosure or whatever. But then there was this non-disclosure agreement about the payout. And then apparently, after all these years, Huey Lewis broke that. And so he got sued back, or it's a huge mess. But anyway, Ray Parker stole it for Ghostbusters and had his own giant 80s hit from that. This song has more sax. It has extensive solos. I do feel like this one gets a little repetitive in the longer versions. It's a big hit and it's very catchy. And I like the song a lot, but I feel like it gets very repetitive at the end, and they probably could cut this one down a little bit. Maybe if you're watching it live, then it's probably great to, jam out and whatever. But on the album, I'd probably prefer a shorter version. So
I had written down that this song is the opposite of the American album, American Idiot concept album, because in this song it's the drugs that represent the woman, and I had said I was very adamant in American Idiot that it was the woman that represented the drugs.
Yeah, that's her name in heroin.
That's right. And I also had that Weird Al Yankovic really ruined this song for me, because he had I Want a New Duck. Do you guys remember that one? And it's I laugh every time I think about it. But this is actually my favorite song on the album overall. I can't say it's sneaky favorite because it was their biggest hit, probably, but I don't think it gets repetitive, because as you said, it's so catchy and it's fun. I just have a lot of fun listening to it.
Yeah, so. I'm with Pete on that too. So this is the second single that was released, and it hit number 6. I love the sweet guitar, and the keyboards in this. This has a little bit of a funk sound to it, which I like.
Yes.
And the video is awesome, because it's, he wakes up late. It's all about him rushing to try to get to a concert, because he's the rock star and he's irresponsible. And,
This is
so
the
it's,
video where his face is in the water, right?
yes, in the beginning.
That's
Yep,
all I
he's
remember about
Yep.
it. But like that image just like seared into my memory from way back, 40 years ago.
Right. So you think like, oh, he's the big rock star. He's late because he's doing drugs. He's singing about wanting a new drug. And yeah, for the idiot out there, it's about a song about drugs, but really it's, he wants that he's looking for that love and feeling, and I just love the lyric, where he, the all alone with you. I love when that goes in there at the end of the verses. So yeah, it's about love. He's looking for a fix, and it's with a lovely lady, and it doesn't have all the side effects of the drugs that make his face break out or his eyes turn red, or all that bad stuff that comes along with it.
That idiot you referred to probably is that same person that doesn't think Three Amigos is a good movie.
Right? Yeah, we really don't like that guy.
I hope he's not listening.
I would think he'd give up on us by now.
I would hope
All right,
so.
number 5 is Walking on a Thin Line. And I will say that I always kind of remembered this song thinking it was on a later album. And maybe it's because it's the last single. I don't know. But the fact that it's on this album, almost like I forget that. Which then I maybe could describe it as my sneaky favorite, Pete. It was a single, but it was a lesser single than the others.
Yep, number
I
18.
love this. I love this song. It has another great opening. It harkens back to the heart of rock and roll. It also starts side 2. So like if you're flipping it over, it's like, the beginning again. And so it has that good like intro beginning sound to it. This song got some hate from some people because it's like a support song for Vietnam veterans. And it's like it got mixed reviews. Like, why are they writing this serious song? So that brought me back to thinking of when we did Hysteria, and there was the song "Gods of War."
Right.
And Joe Elliott's a controversial anti-war anthem.
Yeah.
So, but I love that song too. So this reached number 18, still a big hit. And whatever it's about, I like the lyrics. I like this song a lot. I think it's got a really good sound to it. And I like not that I did have it on a cassette as a kid, but not that you're flipping it over. But I like that it's like the beginning of the new side. It's like a perfect song for that. So big fan, sneaky favorite.
Ooh, I could see where this one would be a good one to start side B with. Yeah, I think it's fun. I didn't actually realize until I looked it up later that it was about the Vietnam War. That's
I never knew that either.
Yeah.
So that was part of my research. It's not like I picked it up. But yeah, I did. That's okay. Right. It makes sense.
Angry
no, I get it.
Yeah.
I thought it was about Brad.
So I just wrote in my notes, this is, they're trying to really rock out here. They're showing some frustration against the man in society. But to me, I'm just listening to, I couldn't find a video for this song, which was weird because it's a single. But like if you close your eyes and you're just listening to this, to me, this sounds like a song in the beginning credits of an 80s movie with the kid from the wrong side of the tracks trying to hustle his way, to his white collar job, like maybe starring C. Thomas Howell or something, like I could just see like the credits over the top of it as he's, throwing on his pants and trying to get out the door and driving his crappy Chevy to the big, office building in the city. So I don't know.
Agree with that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
I'm gonna go watch that movie right now. Bring it on.
I have it on VHS.
All right. So anything else on that one?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. So now we get to the rest of the second half. There is another big hit to come, but this is where you get into kind of like, again, Hysteria. It's kind of front loaded, and those other songs are kind of like, wait, what's on this album after this? Mm-hmm. There are, a few of the other ones here. So Finally Found a Home is number 6. This song is about fitting in. This is where I started to write down that the lyrics to this album, they're not nearly as deep as some of the other ones we've discussed, but it's simple and it's catchy. And you know what? That's fine sometimes. I did like this song. I found it catchy. I described it as an earworm, especially the chorus of it. Like, it's just like, it's got a good hook. And I'm sure that as an 8-year-old, when I had this album, I'm sure I was a big fan of this song because it's a fun, catchy song.
Sure.
It's a good
So,
turnaround to follow
that's
up
all
to
I have to
the
say about that.
Thanks
to the
Forrest.
dark, a little bit dark Vietnam War song. Now we come to this one that definitely is more fun and, as you said, catchy. You did take a few of my notes about it's sort of like stability. Finding stability is what it's all about. Very upbeat, a little happier.
Well, in that way, it kind of fits in with the previous song because it's like the veteran hopefully eventually gets accepted back into society, you know, and then they find their home and find their way again. So maybe
Wait,
it's
was
not
this a
the same.
concept album that tells one?
Yeah,
It's a
now we're getting
2-song
deep, guys.
concept
We're doing
album
it.
in the middle. Yeah.
Dig it in to that album and more.
So I
for it,
just had this. This is not my fave. This song's a little. The music in it's a little disjointed. Like one of the notes I had was like the guitar right before the verses almost sounds like a riff from Bon Jovi's "Blaze of Glory," kind of, which obviously would have been way after. So Bon Jovi would have been ripping that off. But it just seemed kind of. I don't know. It just didn't flow real well for me. So. If I got to have a song on here that I'm gonna skip, this would be the one.
And I can see that too. I mean, I feel like this song sounds a little more dated, but I
Right.
still think it's catchy. So like, if I'm gonna listen to this album once every 5 years, like I can handle listening to it. So
Okay.
all right, now number 7 is "If This Is It," and this is the song that 8-year-old Brad loved the most. I
This
remember
one's
the
a
song.
banger.
I loved this song, and the video was a big part of it. There's nothing better than Huey Lewis laying on the sand and all the band members' heads sticking out of the sand. I just thought that was so funny and so great, and I love this video. You got one of them who's got his head sticking out. He's got a cigarette in his hand. You have a shark going through the sand at the end. It's like, I thought that was so funny. And so I don't know. This song really spoke to me as a kid, and I love the way he sings the lines. Girl, don't lie. The way he says girl, it's just it comes off weird, and I love it. Girl, don't cry. So this was my big. It's not my favorite anymore. It's still a good song. I mean, it's a classic song. But as a kid, this was definitely the song that I loved the most, and the main reason I think why I bought this, or my mom bought this tape for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most fun song on the album. When I was listening to the album, my wife came and said, "Hey, is this from a movie?" I'm like, you know what, it might be. So then I looked it up, and this one is also from Back to the Future, just like, of course, Power of Love. I think it might be like in the credits or something. I don't even know if it's in during the actual show, but it's
okay.
It does seem right after I looked it up. That's what I came across. But yeah, definitely. A lot of fun. This is probably my second favorite song on the album.
Yeah, this is a great song. Another great doo-wop, song. Song of lost love, of course. I could see how Brad, loves this video. You got a beach scene with some fine ladies in bikinis. But there's just a lot of funny stuff in there. What I thought was funny was you got all these people out on the beach, in regular beach wear, and then you got Huey Lewis walking around in a button-up shirt and jeans and his shoes, and it's
His
like
church clothes.
Yeah, like come on, loosen up a little bit here. But
Tom Cruise, it's like Tom Cruise playing volleyball in his jeans.
Right, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. It's like golfing in jeans. You don't go golfing in jeans. Come on.
No.
But what I liked about the video also is that it starts off with the end of "I Want a New Drug." If the video I watched, so it's a person getting ready for their day at the beach, so they're putting the batteries in the boombox, and on the radio is just the very end of "I Want a New Drug." So that's kind of cool.
So this one must have reached number 6 as well, then.
This is the 4th single, and it did reach number 6.
All right.
Yep.
All right, we only have 2 left. It's like Purple Rain only had 9 songs. This too, like they made them. They kept them efficient in the 80s. I like that.
Yeah.
Number 8 is "You Crack Me Up." The
Speaking
main
of
thing
humor,
I noticed listening to this song is there's like a background going on to this song, and it sounds exactly like the theme to Stranger Things. And if you didn't notice that, and I'm sure you probably didn't, if you go listen to it, It's amazing. It sounds like the theme and the opening credits of Stranger Things playing in the background, which you wouldn't think because it's
Okay.
like this catchy, fun song. I'm sure I loved this one as a kid too. To me, this one probably sounds even more dated than Finally Found a Home. Kind of a lame song, but it's still fun, Again, I'm not getting deep into the lyrics on these songs or anything. I don't mind listening to this one, but it's no classic. It's fun.
Right. Yeah, and this song was written because of encounters with people that the band had while playing at Uncle Charlie's, a bar that they played at quite a bit before they hit it big. So when you listen to those lyrics with that context, it's just a string of little funny encounters with people, and no, I'm not going to get in your car. I don't want to hear a song. It's just goofy stuff going on in this song, and it's not great, but it's fun still, and I like that, they picked the pace up a little bit with this one. But yeah, definitely fun.
Pretty consistent with my notes. It's lighthearted, it's playful. It's not intended to be deep by any means. That's not what they're trying to do with it. It's not even made to be a great song. It's just they put it there to have a little bit of fun, and that's what it was. So there it was. There you go.
So there you go. All right, now we're to the closer already. The closer is another cover. So there's only 7 original songs on this album.
Mhm.
The closer is Honky Tonk Blues, the Hank Williams cover. It is a little more sped up with the Huey Lewis and the News sound, their version of it. And it's a fun way to end the record. Like, I mean, it fits their style, the bluesy style and everything, and harmonica sound and everything. It's a good song. It's a good cover. It fits their sound. If you're going to cover a song, you should pick one that works for your band, and it's a good closer to the album, I think.
Musically, it fits their style, but what was weird to me is it doesn't fit their image. If there's a difference, right? When you picture them, as you said, this is a guy that is wearing dress clothes on a beach, and I mean, he's always wearing nice clothes, looking good, and everything. And then you get this honky tonk Hank Williams song at the end. It's still good. I'm not saying it was bad. It just it was just unique to me to hear this one.
Sure. Well, and
Yeah,
I just wrote that it appealed to my country roots.
There you go.
I love
There
the
it
steel
is. There it is.
guitar, and I love the piano in this. You can't go wrong with Hank Williams. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great. It's like Brad said, it's faster paced in their version, so it's a fun way to end the album. So I absolutely loved it. Like Pete said in the beginning, this album's got a little bit of everything. Here we got country with blues. We had another song with blues. We got doo-wop. We got a little bit of funk in there. We got some rock. And I think it was just a great way to wrap it up.
So just a couple other things I wanted to bring up about Huey Lewis. One is that, he's a huge part of the 80s culture, but, he's permeated and lasted a long time. The big thing that kind of brought him back was American Psycho, which we did in a Lost episode. But, that was just, we all liked that movie. And that whole scene was just so nuts and out of nowhere, the way he broke down Susudio and Hip to Be Square. And I love it. But then have you guys seen, I think we talked about this, the other version, the Funny or Die version, where
I have not seen the Funny or Die.
He's playing Patrick Bateman, and it's awesome. And it's
Isn't it with Weird Al?
Yes, it's Weird Al and Huey Lewis, right? And it's just, this guy has such a great sense of humor, and it's awesome, and it's really funny. But then on the other side, that's kind of sad, is that he's gone through a lot of health issues lately, where he really can't sing anymore, and it's it's a real shame, because that's what he does, and he's had this voice issue and this throat issue for a while now, and I've listened to him on a couple of podcasts, and he's great, but he can't really do what he used to do, and that's not too great. But he's still out there kicking.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else about Huey Lewis, guys?
No. I did have fun. It may not have sounded like it with the way I kicked off the episode,
Jesus,
but it was
fun.
Like
a wet blanket the whole time, Pete.
Well, he
Wow.
thought we were going to do something about sports, and as a Minnesota sports fan, he's just going to come in negative to start with, and he couldn't shake that. Yeah.
I'm depressed by Minnesota sports right now, as I always am.
All right. Well, we always like to come up with something kind of interesting to do our draft on. And so, just a year later, basically, Huey Lewis puts out The Power of Love and does do the big soundtrack song for Back to the Future. And then he had this awesome cameo that, most people remember. Another funny thing where he's like kind of poking fun at himself because
Yep.
Michael J. Fox is playing his song. So I'm like, well, he's a huge part of like the 80s and he's in that movie and that's a huge movie and everything. It's like one of the iconic movies of the whole decade, if not the iconic movie. So we are going to draft our favorite musician cameos in movies tonight. And you can stretch cameo a little bit. Like there could be some that maybe their role was a little bigger than a cameo, and that's fine. I don't care. But I did try to keep people to that. So, like for example, when we discuss this ahead of time, we're not going to pick Prince Purple Rain because he is the star and the whole thing's about him. So we're going to try to stick to more surprising roles or smaller bit parts like that stood out.
We encourage you as the audience member, and you're taking the polls on Twitter, we encourage you to make your voting decisions partially on what your definition of a cameo is. So
Sure. I also would love to have
if you stretch it, if Gifford stretches it too much and it's not actually a cameo, you should vote against him.
For
That's
sure.
bad,
Yeah.
and he needs to be voted against.
Right.
I also would love it if they would give us their own answers, like what they would pick, especially if we didn't draft that example, because I would love to get more interaction when it comes to that sort of thing.
Well,
So
and the
we love
crazy
interaction.
The
There are
crazy
two things
part,
we love on this.
right?
Nostalgia and interactions.
Yes.
And if we could have nostalgic interaction, it would be
interaction. Yes.
So one
right.
crazy thing Pete pointed out today, came across his X feed, was there was a discussion on X today about your favorite cameos of musicians.
Just today, the day we're recording this.
Right. So we aren't ripping this off from it was done, but we're trying to we already had this plan to do it.
So I did look through the responses on there, and I did add one to my list that I didn't have yet. But my list was done before that. So
yeah, mine was as well.
All right, so I have first
them.
pick.
Hold on. I want to give thanks to the person that posted that Punt Road at @punt_RD. Thank you very much for your contribution. Even though it wasn't intended, it was just pure blind luck, but great coincidence, and it was a fun read. So I want to give credit.
Okay,
excellent.
I have first pick tonight, and I really almost don't care that I do because I could just there's so many, they're all kind of like equal, like what the hell should I start with? So I am going to pick one. It's a true cameo. It's from a great 90s movie, and it was kind of like this big surprise, and it was really great. I'm going to pick Billy Idol in The Wedding Singer.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Oh, like Brad said, there's so many great ones to go with here. I think it would be a waste of time to not pick Anthony Kiedis in Point Break.
Damn it, Gifford. That was going to be my pick.
We did talk about that movie and talk about
Anthony
Kiedis back then. And yes, he was in Point Break.
Blew his foot off with his own gun.
All right. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm going to go with Wayne's World. Alice Cooper
yes.
in Wayne's World. Milwaukee.
That was a fun one. All right. Well, I'm going to go next with, I'm just going to pick Huey Lewis in Back to the Future next.
Yep.
All right.
Because it's a short cameo. It's a great line, and it's very, very memorable.
Yeah.
You're being too loud.
And the reason why we're doing this list, Huey Lewis in Back to the Future.
I'll grab him before one of you does.
Yep. Yeah, that was going to go in this round for sure. I am going to take Dwight Yoakam from Wedding Crashers. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. I love
Oh,
He was in
okay.
Wedding Crashers. I have him down for 2 other movies.
Oh yeah, he's been in a bunch of
I've
other
got him for
movies.
another
But
one.
the reason why he's not on my main list because the 2 movies I have him down for, he's one of the stars.
Right, but this was, just that scene in the beginning with Rebecca De Mornay and
Yeah, I
him in
forgot about
the proceedings there. So yeah, I
Shit. That's
Definitely-
a great pick. I wish I would have got that one.
definitely wanted that one.
I am going to snipe Brad. I have a feeling with my next pick. I'm going with Chris Isaac in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I have that down.
Oh, that's why I love these lists. Totally forgot about that one. That
Well,
is
and that's
awesome.
one where it's not even much of a cameo because most people don't know who he is in there. It's just I'm watching. I'm like, wait a minute, it's
Yeah.
Chris Isaac.
One of the
Right,
SWAT guys,
right.
right?
Which is when they go into Buffalo Bill's house.
Was it
Ah.
no, I thought it was when they went up the elevator to get Hannibal when he was in the hotel
Maybe.
or whatever.
I don't remember.
But yeah, he was a SWAT guy.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
a great
that
great
part is
pick,
for
Pete.
sure. Good pick, Pete.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna pick one. Well, actually, no. I'm gonna take David Bowie in Zoolander.
Yep.
The dance off.
Okay. Well, I have one last one highlighted here. Everything else that I have highlighted has been picked. I brought this up after after recording our episode last week. I'm going to go with Jeff Healey in Roadhouse, another movie that we discussed on this podcast. I love the end scene where he's sitting next to the pond that Dalton and Doc are skinny dipping in. I think it's ironic because, of course, Jeff Healey is blind, so he wasn't getting to see any of the action there.
My next pick is because the look of the person that I'm picking fits the role so well, just the appearance, and I thought that the way they did it was brilliant. I'm going with Keith Richards in Pirates of the Caribbean.
That was the
Played
Dead
Jack
Man's
Sparrow's father.
Yeah, Dead
Oh, it's
Man's-
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is what I
at
had.
World's-
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I was gonna say that's not in the first one, is it?
No, it's
Sorry, yeah, it's at World's End, but it's
Okay.
Pirates. You get it. So
not. I saw that one on the list. I didn't write it down because I don't know the movie, so I didn't want to throw it in there.
I after the first movie, I gave up on those. I couldn't handle watching them anymore. The first one was good, and then I.
Yeah,
Didn't
first one was great.
yeah, they did definitely jump. the
Speaking of
shark.
long and overblown, that's exactly this. My wife and I both.
By the way, I think he was actually in two. Keith Richards was in 2 of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies at the same role.
That's probably not
On
surprised.
Stranger Tides is the other one.
All right, I'm gonna take another one from one of my favorite '90s movies, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burt Bacharach
Oh, that's
from
a great
Austin
one.
Powers.
Yes.
What the world?
See, and that's one I forgot about. That's a great.
It's the introduction
great
that makes
pick.
it great. It's not him himself, but
I
it's,
make you horny, baby.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's see here. Next, I will go with. She didn't have a line in the movie. I believe she did scream at the end of it. This is Alanis Morissette playing God in Dogma.
Mhm.
Got that one
It's
here.
on my list. All right.
She didn't have a line. I don't remember that part. I mean,
Well,
I
because she
kinda do.
couldn't speak, because if she spoke, she would burst your heart within
Yeah.
your chest.
I remember
Mortal
now.
can't handle the sound of God's voice.
All right. My next one, I'm going back to the Future, but this is Back to the Future 3, ZZ Top.
Ah.
See, again, I saw that one, and I love ZZ Top, but I don't think I ever finished that movie.
What?
A lot of people, it takes you a few times before you realize that that's ZZ Top in that
You never
movie.
watched it one time?
No, I gave up. I love the first one. I love the second one. The third one, I've just never. It looks so hokey with the whole Western theme, and I'm
It's
like,
fun though.
I'm
It's fun.
done. I'm
I
done.
like it.
You know
I-
what I did? Go ahead.
I'm not surprised you do like whatever you didn't like, but I can't believe you like never have seen the whole movie. That just seems crazy for.
No, I
I
made
should
like
watch it. It ties it off nicely. It is way ridiculous, but it's fun. So just enjoy it. We cannot possibly watch. Just say, let's just watch one Back to the Future movie. If we're gonna watch it, we got to do the whole trilogy every time, and we enjoy it.
I made like a tree and got out of there. I did not. I didn't care.
All right.
Third one.
For my last pick, I'm going to pick yet another movie that we've done on this show and one of my all-time favorite comedies, and that is Jack White playing Elvis in Walk Hard.
I would have put money down before this that you were going to get that one. Yeah, for sure. Good pick.
I mean, this is work. I mean, there's so many others I could have picked there, but I figured I'll go with Walk Hard because you know how much I love it. So
right. Oh, for sure.
And it's good. Like he totally commits to that little bit.
All right. To finish it off, I took a musician in a big stretch in this role that he played in this cameo. I'm going with Snoop Dogg in Half Baked. He really showed his range playing that role.
Okay, I think I know what I'm going to take.
Last pick.
It's somebody that's already been named, but it's a different movie. I'm going with Dwight Yoakam in Sling Blade.
Can I call BS on that one? I mean, that's a pretty major character.
I have that down as I can't pick it. He's on my list of ones I can't pick because it's a major character.
Yeah, that's a major character in that.
Can you pick somebody else, Pete? You must have others.
I'll go with Tom Petty then in The Postman. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, not to say that Dwight Yoakam in Sling Blade isn't awesome.
Correct. Right.
Because he is, but it's like he is the antagonist. Like
he's the main. Yeah.
I came across it, and it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I remember it was a great movie, and
yeah, it has been a long time.
But all right,
all right.
Sounds good.
If you'll allow me to go through the rest here.
Yes, please do.
So I just watched Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh,
the Martin Scorsese movie, which I never thought I'd watch. It was going to take so long, but I had a 3.5-hour flight, and I watched a 3.5-hour movie. And as I'm watching it, one of my favorite artists is like, that's Pete Yorn. And like you guys don't know who Pete Yorn is, but Pete Yorn is this great rocker from the last 20 years. And he's in this movie just out of nowhere. And then I don't really know what Jason Isbell looks like, but there's a bunch of like musicians in that movie. It's kind of weird. And I recognize Pete Yorn right away. I almost picked one of my other favorite movies is Up in the Air with George Clooney, and Young MC has a cameo playing Bust a Move at the wedding dance.
Really?
Or no, it's not the wedding. I think it's a work party, not a wedding dance. Yeah, he does. I really wanted to pick this one, but I went with ones that are more obvious on screen. Randy Newman plays the singing bush in Three Amigos. I was wondering maybe if Pete had that one.
Oh, I guess
that's a great one. Can't believe you didn't pick that.
I thought about it.
I didn't have that on my list.
Nancy Wilson is in Fast Times, and she catches the eye of Judge Reinhold, and then he realizes he's wearing a ridiculous outfit, and she drives away, and he gets mad. Nancy Wilson apart. I also just watched The Big Lebowski, and we're going to talk about that in like 2 weeks. And Amy Mann, who's a great artist, was in that movie. And I could tell, so she's sitting at a table with a bunch of them towards the end, and I'm like, that must be somebody. And I didn't recognize who she was. And then I looked, I'm like, oh yeah, because she has songs from, I think in the movie as well, or definitely movies of the time. You picked Anthony Kiedis. Flea is also in The Big Lebowski. Pearl Jam and Chris Cornell are both in Singles.
Speaking of Flea, by the way, Flea is also in the Back to the Future movies in multiple roles.
In all of them?
Really? Not in Back to the Future 3, but certainly Back to the Future 2, because he plays the guy that's on the big screens, and he also is in the gang that's getting in the street race with him.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I do know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have Flea down for A Son-in-Law, the Pauly Shore movie. He was when him and the main character go to get her a tattoo. He is a tattoo artist at the place they go to. So I had that one down on my list.
A couple other movies we've talked about on this show. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. They're playing themselves, but they're in Swingers.
Yep.
at the end, and then and same deal, Rush and I Love You Man. It's like a cameo. They're just
Oh,
on stage playing.
yeah. Oh my
Those are all
God.
my cameos. Now I have a list of a few others where they had a much bigger role, but they were worth mentioning. So I was going to pick Ice Cube for Boys in the Hood, but then I thought, no, that's way too big of a role. I can't pick him.
Right.
I love Harry Styles, and he was just in the movie Don't Worry, Darling with Florence Pugh, and he's like the main actor in it. So couldn't pick that. Josh Groban in Crazy Stupid Love, close to a cameo, but he's in it in multiple scenes.
Yeah.
I brought up the
I would
player.
still put that as a cameo, though.
You could.
Yeah.
I love the player, and Lyle Lovett's got a big part in there as
Huge
one
part.
of the detectives. Harry Connick is the bad guy serial killer in Copycat. Dwight Yoakam is also in
yeah.
Panic Room.
Yeah, Courtney brought up Dwight Yoakam in Panic Room. That would have been a good cameo.
But that's a pretty big role, isn't it? I
Is
mean,
it
isn't
still?
like,
Yeah, I
don't know.
guess. Yeah.
I just thought it was.
It is.
Meatloaf in Fight Club.
Oh.
Justin Timberlake in The Social Network. And Madonna in A League of Their Own. We mentioned Prince, and then John Legend in La La Land. I thought all those were maybe a little bit too big cameos, but some of those could kind of go either way.
Sure.
That's it.
I had Snoop Dogg you've already mentioned, but I was thinking of Starsky and Hutch, where if you've seen the show at all, which I've only seen like 2 or 3 episodes of the actual original show, Huggy Bear is the informant on the street, and that was like Snoop Dogg was the perfect reincarnation of that role when they did the movie. So that was awesome. I don't think you've mentioned, and this might be too big of a role in the movie, but Tim McGraw in Friday Night Lights. That was another good one. And I think you'd probably mentioned just about all the other big ones that I had. So I am good.
Okay, I got a couple. I've got Blink 182 in American Pie. I have got Sebastian Bach in Rock of Ages. He's in the crowd outside the venue when they do a mashup between We Built This City and We're Not Going to Take It. I've got Vince Neil plays Bobby Black, the guy who dies in the beginning of The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which Brad's not a fan of that movie, but I am, of course. And then the last one I've got here, the movie Maverick with Mel Gibson. There are all kinds of country singers in this one. We've got Clint Black, Hal Ketchum, Waylon Jennings,
Travis Tritt there too.
Kathy
Travis
Mattea,
Tritt.
Vince Gill. I mean, there was just a bunch of perfect example of little cameos in that movie. So, yeah, great topic. It was good stuff.
Before we close, though, I had asked about can we do TV shows as well as movies or not, and Brad, of course, asshole that he is, had to say no, we can't do TV.
You can sure bring some up if you have them.
There's a bunch of the main one I had in mind was Simpsons, and the first one that I thought of that popped into my head without researching or anything was Aerosmith. Hey, you just fell on Aerosmith. That episode, which was probably the original, or that was a very early on episode. It might have been the first big cameo for the Simpsons from music.
You could have picked the Simpsons movie, and you could have picked Green Day at the beginning. They go down with
right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought you would throw in there. That's why I thought you got on that tangent with the Simpsons. I thought you'd throw Green Day in for the movie.
Well, there's another.
Yeah. Just sitting here when you say TV, the one that just sprang into my mind was there was an episode of Scrubs with Colin Hay throughout the episode, so that was kind of a fun one.
Oh yeah, and he's singing the song. Oh, I love that episode. Well, that's the one we did on the show. We did that on this show.
Is that the one we did too? Maybe that's why it comes to
mind
so quickly.
We watched 2, and that's one of them.
Yep, and then Cox smashes his guitar.
That makes me think of Chris Isaac. He was on Friends on that Super Bowl.
That's true. Yeah.
He's love interest.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. It's time to close the yearbook on 1983. That was a lot of fun, guys.
I think we really killed that. That was a pretty great year right there.
That was absolutely.
Harkening back to 7 years old.
You know, on Pop Culture Yearbook, once we actually had a musical cameo on this show. We had the drummer from what band? What band was that again?
I believe that was the band Preacher Row.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
Man, I get that right every week.
At
It's
our own
amazing.
cameo.
Well, let's
We
listen to
do.
it, shall we?
Yes, let's listen to them. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye, everybody.
All
Goodbye.
right, thank you. Bye.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Hands tied, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can